New questions today about the recent spike in crime in some U.S. cities and whether or not what's called the Ferguson effect could be to blame. Take a look at these statistics. According to the survey of the largest 63 cities in our country, homicide rates are up 9% this year. And non-fatal shootings, look at that, they're up by even more, by 21%. Well, our next guest explains why. She's the author of the new book, The War on Cops, How the New Attack on Law and Order Makes Everyone Less Safe. Heather Mac Donald joins us. She's also senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute here in New York. Heather, wonderful to see you.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Congratulations on the book. But first of all, can you explain what is the Ferguson effect and why then is the result, apparently, a rise in crime?
The Ferguson effect refers to, and this is a term I coined in last year, officers backing off of proactive policing in inner city neighborhoods, and as a result, criminals becoming emboldened. Not only are we seeing a crime increase this year, last year there was a 17% homicide increase in the 56 largest cities, and in cities with large black populations, 50% or more increase in homicides. Black lives are being taken at an enormous rate, to not a word of protest from the Black Lives Matter protesters.
Well, no one would condone, of course, police abuses and police overstepping legitimate legal grounds. But as you point out, the end result of this are the minority communities, the poor communities, who need policing the most.
Absolutely. We need officers to act courteously, responsibly within the confines of the law, but the Black Lives Matter movement is a fraud. It is based on a lie that the biggest threat facing young black men today is the police. That's simply not true.
What is the lie?
The lie is that the biggest threat facing young black men is black-on-black crime. Blacks die at a homicide rate 6 times that of whites and Hispanics combined. That's because they commit homicide at 8 times higher than whites and Hispanics combined. And if you look at just whites alone, it's an 11 times disparity. And that is what brings officers into inner city neighborhoods, trying to protect the many law-abiding residents there who demand more policing. They want cops to get out of their car at 1 a.m. and make that stop. But when the President Obama, the Attorney General, the entire media besides Fox is saying that's a racist activity, cops are backing off, and as a result, again, crime is going up.
Well, we've seen vigils, we've seen some elements, especially in the Baptist community and in the church community, trying to address this. But why then do you think there isn't more outrage and protests about what you're talking about?
Well, there's no echo in the mainstream media. There's no echo in the political class. Racism sells, but in this case, it's false racism. The best protection, the agency that is most dedicated to Black Lives Matter is the police. Racism is not a widespread problem there, but it's easier to play the victim than to address the hard questions of family formation that is leading too many young black men to be raised without fathers, and without that, they're becoming gang members. In Chicago right now, over the weekend, you had a shooting every 43 minutes. It's the Wild West there because police stops are down 90%.
Chicago is unbelievable. I mean the homicide rate is gone through the roof there already. You have toddlers who are being shot and killed. What can we do as a society to try and stop this and prevent it, and how do we address this issue?
We have to persuade officers to start being proactive again. They have to get out of their cars. They have to enforce broken windows policing, the low-level quality of life offenses. And again, in doing so, that is a moral imperative because that's what law-abiding inner-city residents are begging for. I met a woman in the South Bronx, a cancer amputee, who said the only time she feels safe to go pick up her mail in her lobby is when the police were there. She said, "Please, Jesus, send more police." Those are the voices that do not get reported by the New York Times.
But what happens when, an officer is out there and there's a crowd with cell phones? They're getting watched every moment. They're thinking in the back of their head, perhaps, this is being documented. Of course, even if they are following procedure and guidelines properly, something could be potentially misinterpreted too.
Sure, officers are improvising use of force tactics that don't look as bad on cell phone camera. Use of force is not pretty, but the problem is too many people are resisting arrest. What officers need to hear from their political leadership and from their own police chiefs is if there's a cell phone video that goes viral that does not capture the entire interaction that led you to use force, we've got your backs. And now they don't trust that.
And do you think we'll ever get to that point where this can be addressed?
Well, if we have different political leadership, for sure. Hillary Clinton, unfortunately, has been continuing the calumny against the criminal justice system that President Obama has been engaged in for the last 2 years, saying that the the criminal justice system treats similarly situated blacks and whites differently. That's been the desideratum of criminologists for decades, and they can't prove it.
Well, it would be a tragedy and sadness for our nation, for everyone, if we went back to what we saw in the inner city in the 70s. And we were there, and I was there, and we know what it was like.
Well, policing is the solution. Until we get fathers, policing is the second best solution.
All right, Heather Mac Donald, author of the new book, The War on Cops. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you,
Good to
Eric.
see you.